God, O forgiver of sins and dispeller of afflictions, O thou who art the pardoner, the merciful, I raise my suppliant hands to thee, tearfully beseeching the court of thy divine essence to forgive, through thy grace and clemency, thy handmaiden who hath ascended unto the seat of truth. Cause her, O Lord, to be overshadowed by the clouds of thy bounty and favor. Immerse her in the ocean of thy forgiveness and pardon, and enable her to enter the sanctified abode, thy heavenly paradise. Thou art verily the mighty, the compassionate, the generous, the merciful.
الله تعالی پروردگارا نفس نفیسی به ملکوت شهود و از خاکدان فانی به جهان جاودانی میهمان جدید است عزیز فرما بنده قدیم است خلعت بدی عطا کن ای بی نیاز بیامرز و بنواز و به خلوتگاه و در محفل تجلی آدم رنگ همساز تویی دهنده و بخشنده و مهربان و تویی آمرزنده و نوازنده و توانگر
Aloha, Papa. Good morning, everyone. عرض تشکر از طرف فامیل رحیمی، رحمانی، بم، اقراری، خیرخواه، بهنام و دیگر کسایی که شاید یادم نمیاد به یکایی که شما خیر مقدم میگم. Dear friends, due to multinational audience here, we will be having Persian as well as English presentations here today. I welcome each and every one of you on behalf of the Rahimi, Rahmani, Khairkhah, Iqrari, Behnam, and many other family members that I may forget to express my gratitude. Welcome you. Today's program is going to be short, to the point, hopefully, and I want to thank you for making the effort to come here today despite all the challenges that we are experiencing in the world today. Nonetheless, it's been very brave, courageous, and loyal of you to show up here today. Many are worried about the health issues. Nonetheless, your expression of love is very much appreciated by being here. There are two letters, one from National Spiritual Assembly of Baha'is of the United States, which I will read to you, and one from the local Spiritual Assembly of Baha'is of Los Angeles that I will be reading these to you. دوستان عزیز، دو نامه هست، یکی از طرف محفل مقدس ملی بهائیان امریکا و یکی از طرف محفل مقدس روحانی لس آنجلس. هر دو به زبان انگلیسی است. قرائت میکنم، انشالله که برای دوستانی که انگلیسیشون شاید اونقدر سریع نباشه بنده رو ببخشن. This one is from National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States to the children of Mrs. Pouran Rahimi. Dearest Baha'i friends, we extend our heartfelt condolences to you on the loss of your dear mother, faithful maidservant, author, and lover of humanity, Mrs. Pouran Rahimi. While the grief of her passing is surely hard to bear, we hope you take comfort in the promise of her reunion with your father, her beloved Hidayatullah, in the knowledge that she is now freed from the challenges and anguish of this physical plane. May you, her precious daughters, Ladan and Mojgan, her adored siblings and extended family, and the host of friends she leaves behind, find comfort in warm memories of time spent with her. Your distinguished mother will no doubt continue to inspire all those whose lives she touched in person and through her writing, and future generations will appreciate her compassionate commitment to recording the experience of the survivors of the persecution in the birthplace of the cause in her book, Love at the Cost of Life. Please be assured of the National Assembly's ardent supplication that her radiant soul, quote, may be admitted into the retreats of thy mysteries and may become an intimate companion with the assemblage of splendors. End of quote. We will also pray for the solace of your hearts at this difficult time. میدونید که خانم رحیمی نویسنده بودن و اینجا ذکر شده راجب کتابی که ایشون نوشته بودن راجب شهدای ایران. This letter is from local spiritual assemblies of the Baha'is of Los Angeles to the beloved family of Mrs. Pouran Rahimi. Dear ones, the spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Los Angeles conveys its deepest condolences on the passing of your cherished mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and beloved family member. We realize that no matter one we may be, the passing of a loved one is always difficult to bear. The spiritual assembly offers prayers for the solace of your heart and for the steady progress of Mrs. Rahimi's devoted soul through the worlds of God, through all the worlds of God. We join you in celebrating her many years of service to the cause, which included assisting the Baha'is of Iran during the difficult years of kidnapping of the members of National Spiritual Assembly, and serving alongside her husband in the Baha'i community of Los Angeles for many years. When asked, quote, how should one look forward to death? Abdul Baha answers, how does one look forward to the goal of any journey? With hope and with expectation. It is even so with the end of this earthly journey. In the next world, man will find himself freed from many of the disabilities under which he now suffers. End of quote. We trust you are comforted by Mrs. Rahimi's legacy of steadfast service to the cause of God through her life in this physical realm. Her devotion will long be remembered. With heartfelt sympathy and prayers, Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Los Angeles, Naima Ekfold, Secretary. Friends, as it was mentioned earlier, we are going to have a few individuals in Persian and in English that will conduct the balance of the program. So I will turn it over to, I believe, Dr. Nader Saidi, professor at UCLA. Even though the program indicates Farsi or Persian, he will be speaking in English. So if I may ask Dr. Saidi to indulge us.
I would like to thank Mushkan and Ladan for inviting me to share a few words with you on this particular occasion. We are here to celebrate the life of a special person and at the same time pray for the progress of her soul. Death is the ultimate affliction and suffering. But suffering becomes intolerable when it is perceived to be meaningless. It is not the difficult situations in life which makes real suffering. It is the sense of meaninglessness of that affliction, of that pain, which makes it intolerable. In response to events like this, these afflictions, there are two perspectives. One perspective is the perspective of separation. This is a perspective which sees a human being as separate from all others, separate from nature. In this understanding of reality, of life, there is no possibility of meaning. Meaning is rooted in interconnections and unity of all beings. When that is absent, this perspective of separation finds death as simply a horror. Those who are defining the world in these terms are of two types. One type, because of the sense of mortality and this sense of separation, believes that since we are going to die soon, so we have to seize the moment therefore, the philosophy of life in this perspective is maximization of hedonism, maximization of simple pleasures in a very selfish and hedonistic fashion. In such a perspective, then death, if it is not forgotten, it's always the most horrible event that can take place. There is another opposite perspective within that perspective of separation. Here, people, because they believe in that perspective of separation, and therefore they have no sense of interconnection, interdependence, and unity. For that reason, they find this meaningless applied to life itself. And therefore, for them, it is the life, not death. It is the life which is the ultimate affliction, which is the ultimate suffering. The absurdity of life, the meaninglessness of life, makes life intolerable for these people. And for these people, death is the only liberation, is the only good news, is the only glad tidings. It's like Sadeh Hidayat, that the only moment that one can be happy is the moment that one is preparing to engage in suicide, knows that life is going to end, and so for the first time this person is happy. Both of these perspectives, the hedonistic one and the absurdity one, are rooted in that perspective of separation. The opposite of this is the perspective of interdependence and unity. This is a mystical perspective. Here everything is connected to each other. My life, I may appear to be something independent and solid, but if oxygen is not there, immediately I cease to exist. If the trees are not there, if the mountains are not there, if the rivers are not there, if the works of others, farmers who produce food are not there, I would cease to exist. The reality is that everything is interdependent, everything ultimately is one. Realization of this interdependence creates a new perspective, and in this perspective, afflictions, even though they are painful, they are part of a holistic, interconnected system that ultimately sustains life. And so death becomes another affirmation of life, not the ultimate horror. Baha'u'llah, in his 7 Valleys, which is an interpretation, is a commentary of Attar's Conference of Birds, Mantiq al-Tayr, talks of this same situation. Those who are in the perspective of separation, they see the beginning, but they don't see the end. And therefore, events are, in a meaningless fashion, nothing but pain, nothing but suffering. But those who see the beginning, but also see the end at the same time, they see the wisdom and interconnected unity of events. And therefore they find happiness and joy in the middle of suffering. Those who are in a mystical consciousness, who go even higher than this, they see the beginning and the end as one and the same. Because for them, they go beyond the realm of limitations, and they see all reality as reflections of God. And therefore everything becomes sacred and beautiful. Mrs. Pouran Rahimi, her life and her ideas, in my judgment, are a perfect example of this perspective of interdependence and unity. Her own life was a life of affliction and suffering, persecution because of her belief and religion, confiscation of properties, being forced to be exiled and live far from her homeland. And yet her response to this persecution, response to this suffering and other sufferings, the loss of a beloved grandchild, for example, the response was not being drowned in sorrow permanently becoming alienated from the entire world, constantly complaining against God, engaging in fight against the world and God and nature. On the contrary, my impression was that she was always happy. In the picture that we have here, you see that smile. I think this smile was a permanent characteristic of this great soul. She was always elegant in her appearance. She was very important for her to make sure that her appearance is corresponding to her own physical beauty. But at the same time, she adorned her mind. She was a great scholar. As it was mentioned, she wrote a book. I have read the book. And this book, like her own life, represents this new philosophy. In this work, she does not talk about the Baha'i martyrs in Iran. She talks about the relatives of these martyrs. She interviews the relatives of these martyrs. First of all, that is a great insight. She understands that this martyrdom is not just for those who have been martyred, but lots of other people are participating, sharing in this affliction, in this martyrdom. But most importantly, when you read her work, the most striking point in this work is that you see that these Baha'i relatives who have lost their dear ones, not just because of death, which is by itself a great affliction, but a death which was accompanied by oppression, by cruelty, by injustice. Yet the response of these people to this ultimate affliction is not one of obsession with sorrow, alienation from life, and hatred of others. On the contrary, you see that there is pain, there is sorrow, but the sorrow is accompanied with celebration of life, celebration of this martyrdom. They realize, because of that perspective of interconnection and unity, that this self-sacrifice of these people is affirmation of life. They sacrifice themselves because of the universal love, not because of their hatred of this group or that group. And they perceived that by their sacrifice, humanity would be enriched, history would be enriched. And because of their spiritual beliefs, they believed that this life is an appearance whose truth is spiritual. And therefore, with the death of the physical body, that does not mean the end of life. So for her, and in her own ideas, death is not the end of consciousness. It is the end of consciousness of separation. And it is really the beginning of a genuine, real, true, authentic consciousness of interdependence and unity. We should learn from her life, and from her ideas. And at the same time that we are sorry, at the same time we are sad because of such a loss, we become joyful and celebrate the greatness of this life and the persistence of this life in so many other forms in the world.
Thank you, Dr. Nader Saidi. I'll be remiss not to recognize and thank the readers at earlier time. Of course, we heard the chant by Mr. Rahimi. It was a recording, which brought back good memories. Farzad Rahimi, the nephew of Mr. Rahimi, also read the Persian chant, or chanted. Alexis Marian Rahmani, the great daughter-in-law, read the English prayer. And I want to thank you, our violinist, Farzad, who's been adding quite a bit of eloquence to today's program. Next is Dr. Bob Levine. If we could ask him to have an English prayer for us. And then after that, is شهرزاد اردلان in Persian. دوستان عزیز، انشالله که فارسی کم صحبت میشه رو ببخشید، سعی میکنیم که برنامه تا جایی که ممکنه هم به انگلیسی باشه هم به فارسی. در صورت خیلی ممنون از صبر و حوصلتون.
Not yourself of the things that lie hidden in its depths. Be thou of them that have partaken of its treasures. A dewdrop out of this ocean would have shed upon all that are in the heavens and on the earth suffice to enrich them with the bounty of God, the Almighty, the all-knowing, the all-wise, with the hands of renunciation, draw forth from its life-giving waters, and sprinkle therewith all created things, that they may be cleansed from all man-made limitations, and may approach the mighty seat of God, this hallowed and resplendent spot.
عرض ارادت و همدردی دارم خدمت دوستان عزیزم، دادن نازنین، همسر گلش مشیت، مژگان عزیزم، تمام خانواده و بازمانده ها. هرگز نمیرد آن که دلش زنده شد به عشق، و با عشقی که از خودشون یاد گرفته شده تحمل نبودنشون امکان پذیر میشه و این عشق رو به فرزندان نازنینشون تقدیم کردن و این عزیزان با دوستان و اطرافیانشون صمیمانه و سخاوتمندانه تقسیم میکنن. خوش به حال شما دو دختر که اینجور عاشقانه به مادر رسیدید و تا روزهای آخر اینجور در کنارشون بودید و خدمتشون رو کردید. هر دوی شما، به خصوص مژگان جان که باشون زندگی میکردن، از همون عشق، از همون خاطره و از همون مهری که بهتون آموخته شد کمک میگیریم برای تحمل و گذرای این روزهای سخت. و مثل هر موقعیتی مثل امروز که پیام شروع تازه‌ای در زندگی تک تک ما رو با خودش همراه داره، به دلهامون نگاه میکنیم و یه مقدار در مورد خرج کردن مهر و محبت و انسان دوستی و رفاقت و صمیمیت و آشتی و دوستی بیشتر توجه و دقت میکنیم. سمبولی که با درسی که به فرزندانش داد به همه ما آموخت که بیشتر مهر بورزیم، با اون آرامش و خانومی و همطور که گفتن شیکی خودشون میشستند و میشنیدند و مهر میورزیدند. یاد بگیریم و امیدوارم به خصوص الان که تشنه مهر دنیا نسبت به هم، نسبت به دیگران و نسبت به جهانی که درش داریم زندگی میکنیم با محبت بیشتری برخورد کنیم. ما ز دریاییم و دریا میرویم، ما ز بالاییم و بالا میرویم، ما از اینجا و از آنجا نیستیم، ما ز بیجاییم و بیجا میرویم.
با عرض تشکر از شهرزاد عزیز. She referenced a lot of loving behavior and attitudes that was exuded by Mrs. Pouran Rahimi, now passed on to her two daughters and the siblings. Speaking of siblings, we have the three grandchildren, Pouran Rahimi, Kimia Bam, and Arya, which will be sharing some of their insights for us. Thank you.
O Son of Supreme, I have made death a messenger of joy to thee. Wherefore dost thou grieve? I made the light to shed on thee its splendor. Why dost thou veil me? Sorry about the peace, guys. So we've been asked to give a little few words about our grandmother, and for me, as evidence in all of your presence today, she was obviously an amazing woman who had a huge influence on so many people here at home and far away. And I think for me, her vigor and her fight for being a good Baha'i and coming to this country and emancipating from the persecution that they were experiencing in Iran showed, I think, myself and us how tough this family really is. And for me, I think that's an element that I try and soak in and reciprocate and exemplify on a daily basis, because I think that she wouldn't want anything but that. And we're very thankful for everybody's presence today. And I think for me in particular, growing up, she was always a safe haven when going over to her house in Orange County, especially when our parents wanted to get rid of us for a week. We would go out there and get to kind of get our our energy out, because we lived in a apartment growing up. So going there and experiencing that, I think, was also so enlightening for us, and giving our parents a chance to kind of breathe as well was great. Obviously, I can go on, but I really thank everybody for showing up today, and I think again, your presence is just a pure example of how important this woman was to all of us. So thank you.
O Son of Spirit, burst thy cage asunder, and even as the phoenix of love soar into the firmament of holiness. Renounce thyself, and filled with the spirit of mercy, abide in the realm of celestial sanctity. My dear grandma, Mamai, an elegant queen who never left the house without full makeup and heels, even to CVS. If I had a nickel for every time she told me to wear makeup, I'd be a millionaire. But I wouldn't change our relationship. I wouldn't change anything about her or our relationship. Sassy, honest Pouran. That's my Mamai. Whether it was telling me to wear brighter colors or telling the Lakers how badly they were playing on the TV, she always let you know how she's feeling. I had the chance to strengthen my bond with her this past year after moving back home. As hard as it is to watch this happen to your grandma, I am grateful that I was able to spend so much time with her, telling her every day how much I loved her, watching basketball with her, and sharing with her the latest gossip around the house. As sad as I am at her passing, I am glad she's no longer suffering, and that she gets to be with her husband and grandson in Apple Kingdom forever. I love you, Mama Egypt, and thank you everybody for coming.
O Son of Being, thy paradise is my love, thy heavenly home, reunion with me. Enter there and tarry not, that
sorrowful, sad, but above all, thankful. Thankful and grateful for the time I was given to spend with you, the chance to learn from you, and gain inspiration from you. Sadly, we only knew so little of the life-altering struggles and obstacles you faced during your time. That strength in the struggle and unshakable devotion to the faith influenced and inspired so many. Grandparents hold many titles: mentor, historian, loving companion, and most importantly, role model. Some of the greatest memories from my childhood were forged from days spent at her home in Mission Viejo. I'll never forget the moments like playing in the streets with the neighbors' kids, riding around our bikes through the neighborhood, and looking over to see Bubba in the front yard, meticulously taking care of his plants. As a person with strong faith, I can only pray that God has reunited Mamai with her best friend, and together they're smiling down. I know when I speak on behalf of all the grandchildren when I say she was truly a treasure.
Thank you, all three of you, for expressing your feelings so eloquently. I must say, please don't be alarmed by some of the bumblebees and the butterflies. I think these are the sign of life. I think they're harmless. So if you don't panic, they will not affect you. Just exude the love and let them sit on the flowers and nurture their soul. At this point, I would like to ask Mr. Ali Reza Mehboudi, who does not require any introduction, is one of the most beloved Persian journalist, media man of thought. He will be speaking in Persian and he's honoring us for being here today. دوستان عزیز، جناب علیرضا میبودی احتیاج به معرفی ندارن، لطف کردن که تشریف آوردن امروز ما رو شاد بکنن.
رفتی و رفتن تو آتش نهاد بر دل، از کاروان چه ماند جز آتشی به منزل. به نظرم هم در ادبیات فارسی هم در تصادف در ادبیات بهایی موضوع مرگ در برابر علامات سؤال به نظرم یک اشتباه مصطلحه و چون ما در یک 4 دیواری زندگی می‌کنیم. درست کائنات خیلی بزرگه ولی واقعیت اینه که در برابر هست نیستی وجود نداره. استحاله هست، تبدیل هست ولی نیست وجود نداره. به همین لحاظه که صحبت از سفر جاودانگی انسان در ادبیات بهایی پروازه. این شعر مال خیامه 1000 سال پیش، میگه اسرار ازل را نه تو دانی و نه من، وین حل معما نه تو خوانی و نه من. یعنی از رفتن و از سفر به عنوان معما یاد میکنه. حافظم تصادفاً فکر کنی 3 قرن بعدش همین سخن رو میگه، از رفتن همه ما به عنوانی که از اسرار ازل سخن میگه. 1000 سال از سفر اون یکی میگذره، 700 سال از سفر این علم این همه پیشرفت کرده در قلمروهای متعدد و مختلف، ولی کماکان ما سر پیچ ایستادیم. معما همون معماست. حتی علم یک ذره بهش نزدیک نشده به حل این معما. واقعیت اینه که این حیات ما، زندگی ما سالن ترانزیت. مسافرانی که ما اینجا بهشون خداحافظی میکنیم میرن و زندگی رو واگذار میکنن، کما اینکه نسل‌های قبل از ما زندگی رو به ما واگذار کردن. اون چیزی که امروز ما به عنوان سنت و فرهنگ و رفتار و کردار و اینا میشناسیم، اینا ثمره دستاورد نسل‌های قبل از ماست. ما ادامه دهنده اونها هستیم، آیندگان ادامه دهنده ما. سفر جاودانگیش خوش. پوران رحیمی عزیز، پوران دختر عزیز، من شخصا هم ایشون رو دیده بودم، چندین نوبت با ایشون صحبت کرده بودم. یک شخصیت، یک زن بزرگ فرهنگ مدار، اهل قلم که بلد بود به دیگران خدمت بکنه. این خیلی مهمه. یه نظرسنجی دیروز کرده بودن در انگلستان، فکر میکنم گالوپ هم کمک کرده بود، ببینی که ملت های دنیا تا چه اندازه دهش دارن، تو چه اندازه حاضرن برای دیگران مایه بگذارن، وقت بگذارن. 10 ملت رو معرفی کرده بود، در رأسش اندونزی بود و جالب بود 5 تا از کشورهای 10 تای اول آفریقایی بودن، مثل غنا، مثل کنیا. و این مایه مباهات همه ما ازش سپاسگزاری به خاطر خدماتی که انجام داده. این فرزندان گلی که پرورده، لادن عزیز، مژگان عزیز، و امیدوارم که راه رو خوب طی بکنن. راه مادر بزرگ رو بچه ها که الان اینجا بودن و درباره مادر بزرگی خودشون سخن گفتن. تسلیت میگم به خانواده رحیمی و رحمانی و اقراری و بم و بقیه، و آرزوی صبر دارم برای همه کسانی که زن بزرگ رو میشناختن از نزدیک و دوستش داشتن. رفتی و رفتن تو آتش نهاد بر دل.
It will be very unfair for me to try to translate his eloquent talk. Mr. Maybudi, he reiterated that this world is just a stepping stone for us to go to the next one, but it remains a mystery. Therefore, we just are in a cage in this world, and after the death, we just get out of this cage and we are free with our soul. At this point, I'll ask Mojgan, the daughter who has spent so much time with Mrs. Rahimi and taking care of her at home, to express herself.
دوستان و سروران عزیز و گرامی، از اینکه از راه‌های دور و نزدیک به دیدن ما آمدید بسیار سپاسگزاریم. آمدید که در این روزی بس مشکل با ما باشید، مرهم و تسکینی بر دل شکسته ما بگذارید. آمدید که با هم به دعا بنشینیم برای ارتقاء روح پرفتوحش به درجات اعلی دعا کنیم. در کلمات مکنونه حضرت بهاءالله می‌فرمایند قفس بشکن و چون همای عشق در هوای قدس پرواز کن و از نفس بگذر و با نفس رحمانی در فضای قدس ربانی بیارم. پوری عزیز دل ما، قفس شکستی و چه خوش در هوای قدس به پرواز آمدی. از پیش ما رفتی که با همسرت هدایت دوباره پرنده عشقت را به پرواز ببری و در کنار ادیبت خوش و خرم سپری کنی. اما بگو که ما چه کنیم، با دوریت چگونه بسازیم؟ ای جوهر مهر و وفا، عصاره شهامت و شجاعت، ای شفیق، ای دوست، ای دوست داشتنی، از رفتنت دل شکسته ای. ای بی همتا، تو قفس شکستی، ما چگونه بدون تو در این قفس ادامه دهیم؟ چگونه با ندیدن رویت کنار دهیم؟ گرمای لبخند شیرینت را حس نکنیم، دیگر نتوانیم در آغوشت بگیریم و شاید برای آخرین بار رویت را ببوسیم. خیلی سخت است. به ما میگویند راحت شد، دیگر عذاب نمیکشد. البته که راحت شد، اما جواب دل شکسته من را چطور بدم؟ خواهرم کوتاه، من در التهاب، خواهرانش در ناباوری، نوه‌هایش دل شکسته و تمام فامیلش حیرت زده که آیا از دست دادن این شیرزن حقیقت است یا رویای بستر. نگاهی کوچک به زندگیش می‌کنم. او درد بسیار تحمل کرد. از اول انقلاب، روزی که پدرم را از پشت میز ادارهش بردند و ما تا 2 هفته نمیدانستیم کجاست و چون چند نفر دیگر را برده بودند و هیچ وقت خبری از آنان نشد، پوری ما سفر صبر و بردباری را شروع کرد. برای پیدا کردن پدر تمامی دنیا را زیر و رو می‌کرد. هر کس که میگفت شاید فلان شخص بتواند کمک کند، کیف و کفشش را در درست میکرد و تا آن سوی دنیا پیاده یا سواره میرفت که خبری بگیرد. دنبال میکرد، پرسجو میکرد. یادم میآید هفته اول دستگیری پدر، یک روز مامان از جذب کرد که پاشو میخواهیم بریم زندان قصر. خوشحال گفتم خبری شده؟ گفت نه، باید بریم رئیس زندان قصر را ببینیم و برای پدرت دوا و لباس ببریم. گفتم آخر همینطوری که نمیشه. گفت میشه. دم در زندان قصر جلوی من را گرفتند که مگر خانه خاله است که بدون وقت قبلی بدون اجازه میخواهید داخل شدید. در این بین ها بودیم که در زندان باز شد و شخصی بیرون آمد. مامان یواشکی و در نهایت خونسردی خودش را از راه در به داخل بود. چند ساعتی گذشت. دلم خیلی شور میزد که لابد او را هم گرفتند که این سرچشمه مهر و وفا خسته از در بیرون آمد و گفت دیدی گفتم که میشه. رئیس زندان را دیدم. اگرچه گفت هدایت اینجا نیست، ولی دواها را گذاشتم که اگر پیدا شد به او بدهم. ای وای از این نیروی اراده. چند روز بعد گفت پاشو حاضر شو، میخواهیم به دیدن وزیر نفت برویم. پیش خود گفتم ما رو به وزیر نفت چه؟ اما یاد گرفته بودم که بحث نکنم. گفتم چشم. وقتی که رفتیم باز رفتیم و شد. وزیر نفت رو دیدیم و پرسیدیم. البته میگفت چیزی نمیدارم، ولی میخواهم از اراده او برای شما بگویم. بعد از 2 هفته پدر از زندان اوین سر درآورد. 6 ماه هفته یک بار با عموهایم به دیدارش میرفتیم. از 7 خان رستن رد میشدیم، ولی پوری ما حتی یک بار گلایه نکرد. با لبخند به پدر جرأت میداد، گرمی دل میداد. در خانه هم مشغول پاکسازی بود. کتاب‌های بهایی، تمام زندگی که 15 سال با سلیقه دستچین شده بود را در جعبه ها میگذاشت و از خانه بیرون میداد. بعد از بیرون آمدن از زندان دربدری ما شروع شد. چند بار به در خانه آمدند که پدر را دوباره بگیرند که ما مجبوراً شبانه از خانه بیرون آمدیم. دوستان و فامیل با عشق و محبت به ما جا میدادند. اتاقی در نظرآباد، مبلی در تهران. خیلی سخت بود، ولی پوری ما هر جا که میماند آنجا تبدیل به آشیانه میشد. گلایه نمیکرد. قلبی صورتی کنار آینه میگذاشت و دور و بر را پر از گل میکرد. در طول این چند سال مشغول به خدمت بود. به ما دلداری میداد و تشویق میکرد. گفت از ما بتر هم خیلی زیاد هست. باید به درد دل همه برسیم. با ژینوس محمودی به افراد دیگر برنامه میریختند و مرتباً به دوستان سر میزدند. حتی به دیدن همسران و فامیل شهدا میرفت و با آنان مصاحبه میکرد، ضبط میکرد میگفت قصه این دلیران باید برجا بماند، با سند برای همیشه بماند. بعد از 5 سال از انقلاب گذشته تصمیم به خروج از ایران گرفتیم. از راه پاکستان فرار کردیم. توی راه مامان حالش خیلی بد بود. از لحاظ فیزیکی مریض احوال بود. پیش خود میگفتیم آیا این راه رو میتواند به سلامت بگذرانم؟ کجای کار بودیم؟ این بالا، این ایستاده، هیچ کدوم از این سختی ها جلودارش نبود. این هم گذشت و وارد امریکا شدیم. دوران خوش دیدار، با خواهر بودن، با خواهران خود بودن و او زندگی ساده ای را شروع کرد. دوباره آشیانه ساخت تا اینکه دیگر بار سختی طوفان با همه شدتش کشتی تازه ساخته را تکانی عجیب داد. مرگ ادیب، نوش و سوخته شدن من. وقتی به اون دوران فکر میکنم، به چند ماهی در خانه مادر بودم، این زن با چشمان اشک‌بار سعی میکرد که دل ما را روشن کند. مواظب همه ما بود. با دل شکسته اش به دل ما میرسید. اگر بگویم که با نگاه به گذشته از هر لحظه با او بودن درس شجاعت و خدمت میگرفتم، اغراق نکردم. چقدر بالا، چقدر ایستاده. 1 سال از این حادثه شوم گذشته، مبارزه با سرطان و عمل و کیمو و ریدییشن شروع شد. این دوران را هم با وقار و متانت پشت سر گذاشت. وقتی برای کیمو میرفت، همیشه درست کرده، شیک، الگانت، ماتیک زده. نمیگذاشت که هیچ چیز او را در جا نگه دارد. اجازه نمیداد که زندگی شکستش دهد. در تمامی این دوران پرمشقت عشق به زندگی را در او میدیدی. عاشق شیک پوشی، زیبایی و هر نقطه از خانه‌اش که نگاه میکردی لطافت روح ظریفش را میدیدی. و در این موقع بود که شروع به نوشتن کتابش کرد. همان کاری که در ایران شروع کرده بود. مصاحبه با فامیل شهدا. فامیل ها را از دور و نزدیک پیدا میکرد، به دیدنشان میرفت، به شهرها و حتی کشورهای دیگر سفر میکرد. مصاحبه ها را در کاست پر میکرد. با غم آنان غمگین میشد، به درد دل شکسته آنان گوش میداد. نوارها را دوباره و 10 باره گوش میداد. روی کاغذ میآورد، چندین و چند بار میخواند، تطابق میکرد، ادیت میکرد و بعد کتاب را به چاپ رساند. من و خواهرم در حیرت بودیم که این پروژه به این بزرگی را چطور دست تنها به اکمال رساند. به انگلیسی ترجمه کرد و کتاب را به انگلیسی هم به چاپ رساند. ای مادر خوب ما، مادری کم نظیر، خواهری مهربان، مادر بزرگی مهربان، خاله دوست داشتنی و پرصفا. 1 سال آخر زندگیت بسیار سخت و پرعذاب بود. برای منی که با او زندگی میکردم و برای خواهرم حقیقتاً مشکل بود دیدن او تا این لحظه های آخر. با دمنشا سر و کله میزد، ولی تو بالا زیستی، بالا رفتی. از دست دادنت بی نهایت دل شکسته ای. فکر این که نباشی غیر قابل تحمل. تو سنگ صبور ما بودی، حال چه کنیم؟ ولی خوشا به حالت که با هر کس که صحبت میکنیم از خوبی هایت خاطره ای خوش دارد. دلمان برای تنگ می شود، ولی خوشحالیم که روح پرفتوحت در صلح و آرامش و در فضای قدس ربانی آرام. Just very few words from my English speaking friends. If I can find it. I just wanted to tell you that my mother was an amazing individual. She was one of a kind. She was brave. She was unique. She was elegant. She was beautiful. She fought every step of the way all her life. During the tough times in Iran, my father in prison, being in hiding, being smuggled out of Iran, struggling with cancer, losing her grandson. In every step of the way, she stood tall and she did it the best way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mujgan John. As many of you heard it in Persian, she eloquently, step by step, took her life and described it for all of us to take a snip or small shot of what she went through all her life. We are coming to an end. At this point, it is the only Baha'i collective prayer is the prayer for the departed. It is going to be recited in Arabic by Mr. Rahimi, and it's also suggested that we stand up and face the Qibla. We understand many of you have been standing during this warm weather, even though a little bit of a breeze had helped us. Maybe it's a blessing coming from Pouran Rahimi from the other realm. She's blowing the wind to cool us off. Nonetheless, this prayer is for the departed. There are 6 verses that are being repeated. For those of you that are not familiar, it may be a little bit of a challenge for you to bear with it, but it's our last farewell to the departed. So if I may ask Mr. Rahmani to come, and those of you who wish to stand up, you may stand up. Those of you who can't, please remain seated. It's no sign of disrespect, but it's just a procedure that we follow. So, Mr. Rahmani, I would like to say this. Those of you, first of all, thank to every one of you for being here. It's been a great pleasure for so many of you who have come here, so many who have sent flowers to our homes, have sent flowers here to the graveside. And as a token of our appreciation, there are light refreshments here. Nonetheless, we are inviting those of you who can join us at Darya Restaurant on Santa Monica Boulevard for a luncheon. Even though the space, we are taking over the whole space, nonetheless, it may not accommodate all, but we will be delighted to have you join us for lunch at Darya Restaurant following here on Santa Monica Boulevard on a corner of Bundy and Santa Monica. So thank you again, and thank you so much for putting up with this unusual circumstances, not being indoor, but it may have worked out well to be in the Southern California beautiful weather. Thank you again.
Ya Ilahi, hazihi amatuka wa abnatu amatik التي آمنت بك وبآياتك وتوجهت إليك منقطعة عن سواك إنك أنت أرحم الراحمين. أسألك يا غفار و ستار العیوب به ان تعمل بها ما ینبغی للسماء جودک و بحر افضالک و تدخلها فی جوار رحمتک الکبری التي سبقت الارض و السماء لا اله الا انت الغفور الكريم. الله ابها انا كل لله عابدون 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 انا كل لله عابدون. الله ابها انا كل لله ساجدون 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 انا كل لله ساجدون. الله ابها انا كل لله قانتون 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 إنا 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 كل لله قانتون الله أكبر إنا كل لله ذاكرون 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 الله أكبر إنا كل لله شاكرون 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 الله أكبر إنا كل لله صابرون 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 إنا كل لله صابرون.
So help yourself with some refreshments in the back. And once again, you're more than welcome to join us at Darya Restaurant in Santa Monica Boulevard.
نه این ولی شروع نکرد